If you're waiting for the market to get easy again, you're already behind. Yes, let me say that again. If you're waiting for this market to get easy again, you're already behind. The market is not broken, my friends. The market is self-purging. It is filtering out the unprepared. And that's a conversation we're going to have today here on Agents in the Trenches, because it is time for everyone to level up. So welcome to this episode of Agents in the Trenches, the space and the place where we bring the real, raw realities of exactly what is happening in our market and beyond. I remember in the year 2000, when I first got into real estate, it was a normal market. You had to work for your transactions. You had to find your buyers. You had to look for the people, talk to the people, whether it was expireds or for sale by owners or doing consistent open houses. It was a normal market. Fast forward, we have enjoyed the best market anyone has seen in 10 years. But that's also a very difficult situation to be in, because if you've been in real estate for 10 years or less, you are not used to a normal market. We know we've been spoiled by the post-pandemic, everybody coming to Florida, especially our area, everybody selling their $1 million properties and just coming to our area and really just taking orders. And so what happens is we have a lot of real estate agents, a lot of real estate professionals, a lot of people in the industry that have never experienced a normal market. So yes, we're not waiting for the market to change. We're not even waiting for the moment when things are going to happen. We are in the heart and center of a totally disruptive market, a market that is self-purging, a market that is going to require a lot more skill, a lot more hustle, a lot more preparation, and a lot more determination and consistency to get your business to that next level. So today, I want to tell you a little story about my next guest. The power of social media and everyone that's out there saying, I don't like the way I look on camera. I don't like the way I sound. I'm just not good at it. Well, let me tell you, my friends, no one is going to walk into your office to look for you to buy or sell a home for you. No one is going to come rescue you. You've got to step up. You've got to defy the odds, and you've got to think in a very innovative way. So it was through the power of social media that I observed this gentleman, and it caught my attention. And I said, you know what? I want to hear more about him, what he's doing, what's working, and what does he think about this crazy market that we are all in. It's crazy, but it is the best market to level up, to open up new doors of opportunity, because I'll tell you a secret. There's not a lot of people that are stepping up. There's not a lot of people that are thinking out of the box. Most people are sitting on the sidelines, wondering what's happening or waiting for whatever's happening to go away. And it's not going to happen anytime soon. So let me bring up to the stage this person that literally, this is our first time having a real conversation, but it's my pleasure to bring up Danny Poole. Welcome to the stage, Danny. Let's see. All
Hi.
right, here he is. Here he is. Hi, Danny. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucy, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's kick it off. You have the most appropriate name for real estate. Tell us about your last name, Poole, and how that has leveraged and helped you step out in the real estate arena.
Yeah, so it's funny because I'm born and raised in Miami, which everybody in Miami, for those who are from there, know it's either Hernandez, it's Perez, it's Gonzalez, and I'm Poole, which kind of stood out like a sore thumb, but it really helped me in my real estate business. My dad's American. My grandfather was a cowboy from Texas, moved to Florida years ago. And then my mom is from Cuba. And I grew up in Miami with my mom with that name. And if you think my name is funny, my brother's name is Paul Henry Poole. And he speaks
Oh,
just like a
wow.
Cuban.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive right in. Tell us how you got into real estate. How did you even get into this world of real estate?
Well, I've worked in sales and customer service pretty much since I was a kid. I originally thought about doing real estate pretty much during the 2008 2009 moment where everything kind of fell apart, and I decided not to get into it. I later on moved over here about 6 years ago from Miami to Southwest Florida, specifically to Cape Coral, and I started to see this area kind of blow up and grow, and I wanted to get into a business of my own, but I didn't know what to do. I thought about being a trucker. I thought about being a personal trainer. Mind you, I was 180 pounds back then.
Mhm.
And I thought about different things. And a buddy of mine had told me about real estate since I worked in sales and I worked in customer service. I tried it out, and the rest is history.
So the $1 million question, right? From someone that has been in Southwest Florida since 1996, right? And I remember getting into real estate in the year 2000, and I had never in my life had heard about Cape Coral. I had never in my life even knew this existed. I mean, I grew up in Aventura. Everything I knew was either Miami Beach or Hollywood, right? Obviously for Lauderdale. How did you find Southwest Florida?
Yeah. So pretty much everybody from South Florida lives in this little bubble. It's
Yes.
kind of like an example would be the people from New York, from Manhattan. They think anything outside of there is just green pastures. It's kind of the same phenomenon that's happening in South Florida. And I was one of them. I was looking to buy a home, and Miami started to get unaffordable. Actually, the story goes that my wife and I were pre-approved for up to $280,000. This was about a decade ago, and we were seeing homes in the Kendall area of Miami for roughly about that same price. And a family friend told us at the time that $280,000 was ridiculous. It was way overpriced to just wait until the prices dropped. And what did we do? We waited and we
Huh.
waited and we waited and we waited some more, and prices did not drop. They are still to this day going up and up and up and up. So ultimately, my wife and I said, you know what, we missed our chance. Let's start to look at different markets. We were looking at Texas because Texas offered very affordable homes, especially in the metro areas of Dallas and Houston. But one thing that really caught my eye about Texas was property taxes were through the roof.
Mm.
And a buddy of mine approached me and said, "Hey, I'm buying this brand new construction home in Cape Coral for roughly 200 and I think it was $240,000, 4 bedroom, 2 bath on a quarter-acre lot." And I thought, well, where's Cape Coral? Where
Uh-huh.
is that? And he said, I'm like, is that like in Broward? And he said, no, this is on the Gulf side. It's right near Fort Myers. And I'm like, dude, I'm not moving out there. That's country. So my wife and I were looking online. She says, hey, this Cape Coral place keeps coming up, and it might be country, but the homes are new, they're affordable, and they have huge backyards. And she had me at huge backyards,
Um,
like most men.
mhm.
And we looked. We decided to take a road trip. It's a 2.5 hour drive from Miami.
Mhm.
We were gonna go and come back the same day. We loved it. We ended up deciding to stay the night. We booked a hotel at last minute, and then we toured some more. We went to different areas of Cape to kind of get an idea of the area. And I made a decision, and I spoke to my boss at the time, asked for a transfer, got a transfer over, and the rest is history. It's been amazing. I love living out here, and I wish I would have known about it a lot sooner.
Wow. And what year was this in?
This was 2020 during
Oh,
the pandemic.
wow.
Yeah,
Just the other day.
yeah.
It's
It feels
crazy
like
how
it.
fast, right? It's crazy
Yeah.
how fast that's gone. So I have to ask you this question because I want to know if the same thing that happened to me happened to you. You get in the car, you get on I-75, right? You're coming across Alligator Alley. You get off, right? On whatever exit, 136 or whatever exit you got off on. What was the what was the most amazing impression you got as you were entering Cape Coral? What was the moment that you were like wowed by entering into Cape Coral?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. Going over the midpoint bridge into Veterans, that was the point. When I went over that bridge and I looked at that Caloosahatchee River, that wide river, and I saw those homes right on the water, and also upon crossing the bridge, getting onto Veterans Parkway, you drive down that road and you see the huge pine trees, the little hills with the walkways. I thought it was a no-brainer. I At
Wow.
that point I was sold.
Well, I mean, exactly the same thing for me, except with 1996, we only had the Cape Coral Bridge. And
Yeah.
so
Wow.
we didn't have, I mean, there's so much history in Cape Coral that I can share, but when we were crossing that bridge and we got into the city of Cape Coral, I was like so amazed. The thing that it reminded me of right at that very moment was Key Biscayne.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is like going into Key Biscayne. And obviously, our city is a beautiful city.
Yeah.
And we are the paradise of Florida. It's too bad that people don't know about it. And it's
Yeah.
too bad that people are not open minded enough to come and check it out. Because I remember in 1996, when we moved here, we would talk to people on the East Coast. They literally thought that we were in a town that had dirt roads. Like they envisioned us in dirt roads, right? They didn't even know that it's a city. It's a total city with an infrastructure of, you know, the demographics of a future Miami.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I would also say that and this is something I talk a lot about in social media and I talk to people about. Being born and raised in Miami, I saw Miami essentially become what it is known for
Mhm.
today. But a lot of people tend to either forget or they don't know the history that Miami was known as a sleepy town, was a retirement community, mixed with an infusion of Latin people that were coming into town. But it wasn't a world recognized city. It was mostly for working class, middle class folks. At that time, you could be a plumber and afford to buy a home in a really decent neighborhood. And I saw that transition, that change. And I kind of wanted that to happen even during my time in high school. So moving over here, the one thing that I've noticed is that I'm starting to see that same trend over here. Now, there's no comparison. Miami is at a whole other level just for
Right.
the ports alone. But you should not sleep on this area.
Oh
And I
no.
see the growth all the time with people that are coming over here and just doing a short drive around town. You start to see businesses opening, development everywhere, and even huge projects that are coming as well.
Definitely, there's a huge evolution happening in our, area of Cape Coral. And literally, I tell people, I've been telling people this since I got into real estate. We are Miami 30 years ago. I would say we are Miami 20 years ago now,
Yeah.
because obviously, the growth um, is not happening as fast as it's happening in Miami. But Miami is, I mean, almost a 200-year old city, and we are mid 50s, right? We're mid 50s cities. Do you
That's
know
right.
the story of Cape Coral? Have you ever researched or learned the story of Cape Coral?
Yeah, I'm familiar. It was the Rosen brothers that at the time bought essentially the city of Cape Coral, and they came with developers, if I'm not mistaken, and they started to create those canals we're famous for here. And then at that time, there was just one road, Del Prado Boulevard. I think there was even a runway as well. I think what was it, the late 50s or 60s?
Yes, early 60s. It's amazing to think that two Jewish brothers would buy this whole parcel of land, right? A peninsula. And because they needed to elevate it, they needed to elevate the land because it wasn't elevated enough to build. They started dredging canals,
Yeah.
and they reused the dirt from dredging the canals to elevate the land.
Wow.
And literally, here's a fun fact that nobody knows about me, right? So my first broker, when I got into real estate, he actually owned the very first Century 21 company in Cape Coral, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
in Del Prado. But before he owned that very first Century 21 company in Cape Coral, he used to work for a company out of Boston. I don't recall the name right now, it'll come back to me, but this company out of Boston had been hired by the Rosen brothers and obviously their associates and developers and everything to promote land in Cape Coral. And Cape Coral began right there on Cape Coral Parkway, right? I think it only went as far as Santa Barbara Boulevard. So it was literally, you come into Cape Coral and it ends on Santa Barbara. Everything else was dirt road, but they built the yacht club, because what they would do is
Mm.
fly people in from Boston, from Chicago, New York, and they would sell them lots for $5,000 on the water in the yacht club.
Yeah.
I think the name
Yeah.
of the company was Great American, but basically they would just fly people in, give them one of those sales pitches like a timeshare, but it was buy your land. And then imagine in the early 60s, people were just, buying their piece of land and building their home. And that's how the yacht club began. That's how the yacht club got started.
Yeah, so
So,
some of that land right now, because I was out there looking at some golf access lots yesterday, and they're going for 500,000, over a million, depending on the location, on a 0.23 acre lot, which is just crazy to think that not too long ago you could buy them for $5,000. So the people that invested early, those are the ones that are winning today, for sure.
it's kind of like the story of Miami Beach, right? So when I
Yeah.
was real little and my parents, my mom was in accounting, she got a job at the Eden Rock Hotel, which is right next to the Fontainebleau. And obviously, we had nothing else to do. So we would go to the beach while she was working, and you would see all the, you know, um, older folks sitting on the porches of those apartment buildings on Lincoln Road and Washington Avenue and Collins Avenue. And look at what it is today,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about you, right? Let's talk a little bit about you. So you come here in 2020, and is that when you got into real estate?
No, I got into real estate a short while later. I actually
Okay.
used to work my last job, because I don't consider this a job. This is to me a dream. What I do every day. And I'll explain why. But I used to work for T-Mobile. That was my last job. Before that, I worked in luxury hotels and luxury gyms, pretty much in that luxury sphere. And I was working at T-Mobile in sales. I did a transfer from Miami to Fort Myers, and I jumped around a few shops in the area. Um, and what got me into real estate was, just talking to friends of mine that were telling me that so and so is earning this much money, was doing this. And I always thought real estate was for the really attractive girls or the older people that have been doing it for years. And I said, who am I? I'm this pudgy, 30 something year old guy. Why would I get into real estate? But I said, you know what? Let me give it a try and see how it goes. And the reason why I say this is to me a dream, what I do, is because I enjoy videography and photography. I
Okay.
would do it as a hobby. So what really kicked off my business, and this is important for other agents that are new or that are struggling, this might be a niche for them. It helped me was my skills doing videos, and they've really evolved throughout my career as a real estate agent. But when I first started, that idea came to me actually from my wife. I used to do videos for fun, and I figured, you know what, if I'm going to get into this, I might as well start making videos. I didn't know what else to do to build my business up, and little by little, things started to pick up and I started to invest more time, energy, and money into equipment, into schooling, to learn how to shoot videos, to learn how to edit, to learn how to fly a drone. And it's fun because I'm promoting homes, I'm promoting the area, while at the same time I'm doing something that for me is a hobby.
Wow. So you got creative with your talent, right? And you implemented it into your business.
Yes.
So let's talk about what you're currently doing, because I know, and that's how we connected through social media. I was attracted to the fact that you were talking about, our area, but to the audience on the East Coast. So tell
Yes.
us more about how you speak to that audience and how has that worked out for your business?
Yeah, that's a great observation. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm targeting the folks on the East Coast. So, I get a lot of people that say, there's no comparison between Miami and Southwest Florida or Cape Coral specifically. And I'm never comparing them. What I'm doing is I'm using them as a context. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I do this is because I do talk to buyer leads all the time. And that also goes for, first time buyers, retirees, or even investors that are looking to invest in the area. Um, and they're getting priced out of Miami. Miami's gotten too competitive. And they ask me a lot of questions. And they're also misled by a lot of people, whether they're in the industry or not. They're just misled, in my opinion, my humble opinion. So I figured, let me do a talking head video, something that's not dramatic or with effects, something simple, straight to the point. And the point was to try to give you some context, what you can get in Miami versus what you can get here, and then kind of leave it open for discussion. I try to respond as many comments as possible, but the point, the goal really is to try to enlighten people on the East Coast of this area, just like I was enlightened. And I also understand some people don't want to take the risk. They're scared, or they rather hear it from somebody, and perhaps somebody that's from their hometown, from their area, that understands the nuances, that understands the culture, the dynamics, and could explain to them what you can find over here. And then there's another thing too. I didn't come here to look for parties, to look for events. I came here looking for peace, tranquility, safety, somewhere where I could raise my family. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking straight from the heart, from my experiences outside of that that mirror of as a realtor, as somebody that is a husband, is a father that has two small children. What this area has offered for me, if you this is not for you, then it's not for
Right.
you. But
Yeah.
for most people, they're looking for something that's accessible, affordable, safe, and this place pretty much checks all those boxes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's exactly the reason that we moved here, was because we were looking for a safe haven to raise our children, with good schools, right? A family lifestyle with a lot of safety, right? Safety is important, right? When you're in these big metropolitan areas,
Yeah.
safety is obviously a challenge.
Yes.
And we found the best of all worlds, and especially the affordability. I mean, the
Yeah.
affordability, you cannot beat that. And I think that, we're going through another cycle of this, obviously, because there are a lot of people that are being like, you know, pushed out of Miami. Look at what's happening with, like I say, it reminds me, like I look at our area, and I say, this area reminds me of, let's say, for example, Homestead, right?
Yes.
This area reminds me of Key Biscayne. This area reminds me of Hialeah, without saying any name. Right? I'm like, okay, this is starting to look a little bit, because I grew up in Hialeah. I mean, when we first moved to Miami from New York, um, I went to school in Hialeah, in Miami Springs to be exact, right? So it's crazy because now you start seeing the evolution of our area
Yes.
with other areas that we are obviously now seeing where they're at. So tell us a little bit about what you've seen change since you got into real estate, because obviously right after the pandemic, during the pandemic and post pandemic, everybody was moving here. And now that has changed somewhat. So you, as an agent who is in production, you are in the heartbeat of the real estate market. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen change.
Yeah, well, definitely when I first started, the market was a bit crazy. And I remember my mentor telling me, "Don't get used to this market. It's not a normal market." Obviously we saw homes go on the market and sometimes within a few hours get multiple offers, multiple showing requests. And it was very hard for buyers because even though there was a lot of supply, the demand was significantly higher, at least when I first started. We're talking about 2021. Um, as the years have progressed, obviously those numbers have come down. So we've seen a sort of softening. Part of it, obviously, is what most experts talk about: interest rates, insurance. The cost of homes are still relatively high for most, especially working class folks. And there's also been the one thing I hear a lot of people say is the lack of jobs, that there isn't enough jobs or high paying jobs to be able to afford an entry level home. I think it's kind of hard to pin it to one or two things. I think it's a number of issues that we're facing. One of which was the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, what that did to the area. It left a kind of sour taste in the mouth of many people, and there's also been a lot of how do I say this? A lot of mixed messages of what the aftermath was of Hurricane Ian. So we could go through each one, but I would say the biggest hurdle that we're facing right now is that we went from a really big high to now we're starting to see this softening, and that softening has left these kind of ripple effects in different areas. So our job as realtors, at least what I try to do, is try to educate, inform, and enlighten people that are probably not too familiar how this all plays out. Like, for example, Hurricane Ian. I tell them, this is Florida. Florida does get hit with hurricanes. It does get hit with storms. It's not specific to a particular area. And the state of Florida is it's a huge state. It's a really big state. So, and hurricanes don't come every year. That's just one of the side effects or one of the costs of living in paradise.
Mhm.
The great thing is what the community does afterwards and how we get together. And as a real estate agent, how I can navigate you to the right spots if that is a concern for you. But I could go on and on different
Right.
things. It's just mostly just a softening what we're seeing.
So you obviously, it's a sign of the times. You're obviously seeing that obviously less people are coming or moving here than they were, but there's
Yeah.
still a lot of opportunity. How are you staying at the forefront of keeping your business moving? Because I know that, yes, the market is purging itself. I mean, if agents are not going to level up, if agents are not going to step into building their skills and preparing and really becoming that professional, because let's face it, in 2005, most realtors were just order takers. I mean, they wouldn't even know how to fill out the contract. They would just
100%.
taking orders, right? Because everybody was coming, everybody was buying. And now we're kind of going through that cycle again where now, we can tell if you have not taken the time to learn the things that you need to learn, because now you need to know how to talk to people. You need to know how to separate yourself from the rest, and you need to have the skill set. So, how are you leveling up with the change? How are you leveling up with the purging of the market?
That's a great question. So obviously, be informed is number one. You have to understand everything that's happening, good and bad, in the market. I read an article recently that talked just about what you just mentioned about the influx of people that have been coming. And the reason why most people are coming is kind of the same reason I'm getting from buyer leads that send me a DM or text message or even call me from a video that I've done. And they ask me questions. Obviously, affordability is one of them, the cost of living, the insurance, the hurricanes, all that. For me, what I've been doing is focusing on my niche. Each person has a niche, and this the great thing about this industry that we are in is that your niche can be open houses. It can be a door knocking. It can be mailers. It can be references. There's just a cold calling is huge. There's a number of different variety of what you can find as your niche. You could have more than one. The idea is to master one. I
Right.
am really trying to master social media. I think it's really important. And I think if you're not on social media, whether you're a realtor, a barber, a mechanic, it doesn't matter. You are missing out, because that's a huge void for
Yes.
your business. You
Yes.
need to, I mean, most big companies, think about it, have a whole department and a department head that runs social media
Yes.
marketing. So as a business owner, as an independent business owner, as a real estate agent, because we are the CEO of our business,
Mhm.
you have to be on top of that. And for me, with social media, it came down to, editing the videos, creating the videos, the content. What are people liking? What are they subscribing to? What is attracting them? Let me do more of that. The
Right.
talking head seems to work really well, so I'll do more on that. So yeah, that's pretty much how I'm doing it, being informed, being on top of it, so then I can know how to cater my marketing around that.
Well, you're definitely doing a great job. I commend you for, having that foresight, or, having the ability to say, okay, I need to find my place. I need to figure out how I'm going to get my name out there. I'm really happy that you did that, because that's how we met. And I always like to spotlight, people that are really hustling and grinding, or doing what they do, and stepping out. I want to respect your time, but I want to ask you, what do you see yourself accomplishing, or where do you want to see yourself in the next 12 to 24 months? If you could have all things be a possibility, where is your heartbeat for the next 12 to 24 months?
So my continue to do the videos, the talking heads and videos on homes, but I would really like to tap into the luxury market. That's just me. I've worked in luxury for a long time. I understand that demographic. So I'd like to focus a little bit more on doing more of the luxury side, whether it's presenting a home, representing an investor, a builder, seller, and or a buyer as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, anything I can do to support and facilitate and help you accomplish that, you can count on me. And I believe you're on the right track. You've got what it takes. I can tell you are a visionary, right? Someone that kind of sees where they can go and goes with it. So, any closing words? Any best practices you want to share with your colleagues that are watching this?
Yeah, well, what I would say is find your niche, whatever that may be. Make sure that you include social media on it. Being informed is really important. Reading articles, looking at news segments talking about real estate, talking to buyers and sellers. Listening rather than just talking,
Yes.
hearing what they have to say, and then that way it gives you an idea, and it sharpens your tools as a professional. So definitely, be informed, social media marketing, and find your niche, whatever that may be. If it's social media marketing, maybe it's talking heads, maybe it's doing a walkthrough. I've seen realtors have great success with their phones, just walking
Yes.
up to a house, shooting a 1 minute video, and getting tons of messages, which is great for them. So, find your niche and be informed, pretty much.
Oh, thank you, Danny. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm
Thank you.
so grateful that you accepted the invitation. I hope to meet you in person soon. And looking forward to a bright future in this beautiful Southwest Florida area. So, guys, we will see you on the next Agents in the Trenches. And I hope, Danny, this is not the first and last time you join us. I look forward to having you back on the show. And much continued success to you.
Thank you, Lucy, for having me, and it was a pleasure. I am very grateful for the invite.
My pleasure. Take care. See you guys.
See you.